Welcome back to the official Atari Games podcast. This is Jason here, joined once again by two legends, the Ox, Jeff Minter.
Hey,
Welcome back to the pod, Jeff. How you doing?
cheers. I'm doing pretty well here.
Great. Thank you for coming back. And also the GOAT, Ivan Zorzen. Ivan,
Hello.
welcome back. How you doing, Ivan?
Well, busy, very busy.
Busy. Can't imagine why. We're about to find
Well,
out.
you know why.
Right, you're having a lot of internet outages because of the heavy winds in Wales. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, we've got to have like a third of a mile of cable replaced or something tomorrow. Why they can't just patch us into the fibre that runs straight past our house? I don't know, but there we are.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I don't know how the Wales internet infrastructure is currently functional or not functional, or how that works.
It's not bad, but these days everybody should be on fibre. Say the fibre runs straight past the house, and yet they still want to put us on a third of a mile of overhead copper that runs over a bunch of trees that tend to blow around in the wind, of which there's plenty in Wales. So anyway, it is what it is.
I'm sure. Well, at least it's very lovely for 2 months of the year, right?
Oh, it is, yeah, and it's full of sheep.
Exactly. And who I've met personally, very lovely. Those sheep. Well, we're going to talk about what they're doing. We're going to talk about why we're here. I mean, you already know because you clicked the podcast on YouTube, which you're definitely going to want to check out for this one because the gameplay for what we're going to talk about is quite a visual feast. But before we get into that, the usual rigmarole. First of all, I know you're listening. You're out there. Hell, am I talking into the void? No, somebody's listening. And if you're listening, you haven't done so, please review the podcast. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, or better yet, if you look at your phone right now, look at the podcast, look at that. Is there an option to review us? If so, do it, please. That would be much appreciated. Also, join the Discord, the Atari Club. That link is down below in the description. Last week, we announced Breakout Beyond, and that is available for wishlisting now. But for the topic of this show, it's important that you wishlist iRobot, which we just announced, and therefore we have this podcast. And we're going to jump right into playing iRobot and talking about it because there's a lot to talk about, and you might look at this and say, "Hey, I think I don't really know what's going on. What the hell is happening in this game?" And that's why I brought Jeff and Ivan to tell us what is happening in this game. So here we go. And we're jumping right in. iRobot. So, history. Who wants to give me the history lesson on iRobot?
Jeff, no.
I think it came out, 1982, 83 time, I think. iRobot was the first game to use solid polygonal 3D graphics, which at the time were extremely advanced. And it was quite a technical tour de force. And it was so new, the graphical technique was so new, they even had a special mode in the game called the Ungame, which just let you play around with the 3D graphics from the game. Because most people had never seen this kind of stuff before. So people would actually go into an arcade and pay money just to fiddle about with a bit of 3D graphics. The game itself is, I think it's another Dave Toira design, isn't it? And it's kind of a maze dexterity game, I suppose you'd describe it as. The objective being to move your robot over every surface of the level, which paints it a particular colour and sends a beam of hostility towards the eye. The eye is the villain. The eye basically is dormant most of the time. It's just watching you, but every now and again the eye will open wide. When the eye is open, if you're jumping, the eye will disintegrate you with a beam. And so we've carried on the same theme into this game. Basically, you have to keep an eye on what the eye is doing, because if the eye is open, some things can happen. It's not just disintegration in this game. There are other things which can occur when the eye is open. But the objective is to basically go around the level. On this game, you're effectively removing the tiles. So you're still painting the level, but you can see the tiles coming off, and they fly off and bash into the eye. And when all the tiles are gone, then the level is destroyed. And then you go through a kind of hyperspace warp section where you get to shoot geometric solids. for your pleasure and extra points, and try and get an extra life by not dying during that section. And then you arrive at another level, and there's 55, 56 levels, I think, in total.
Yeah. So I'm about to show, one of those examples, like one of those twists. Like every level that you've designed here has its own twist. It's very unique. Like the concept itself, I think, like the beauty of your game designs, at least the way I see them, is that they are all inherently simple. Like I think everybody looks at a lot of the games, like Aka R, right? We released Aka R 2 years ago, and it's awesome. And people look at it, even still, and they're like, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, well, actually, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
You're in the middle, and you just got to shoot things before they hit you in the middle. And if they get through, then some things you could shoot down below. It's not a complicated design. This one is also pretty straightforward. Flip all the tiles. I actually describe it, specifically as a puzzle platformer of sorts. I think
Yeah,
that's the closest
I refer to it as
genre.
a dexterity puzzle shooter platformer, really, that kind of maze game almost. Because some of the
Yeah,
levels are a bit maze like. There's always a bit of a puzzle. There's always a bit of working out what to do. And often there's a straightforward approach, and then there's a knowledgeable approach. Once you've actually understood the level a bit more, you can do it a bit more efficiently.
I would dare to
right.
say, as usual, is the famous easy to learn, difficult to master game, where you can easily learn and go through in a easy way, but when you learn how to score the maximum points, that takes a little bit more reasoning and practice.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
definitely a game that opens itself up to what we call rinsing, which is like getting the most possible points out of a level. There are various ways to do that, some of which are quite subtle.
right. Yeah, and that's what I beat the level too fast in order to point out where I was going, but that was one where you have those secret objectives as well. So that was one where I was actually able to stay on the back row when I killed one of the birds. I was able to paint the level effectively, and that's a mechanic that shows up at least one time later on. But that's a fun little reveal when you figure out, oh, that's what's happening. It's a nice little twist on that level, and then all of a sudden you're thrown into the next level where I forget that mechanic. Now we got a new one. We got these rings appearing that I could actually jump through while the eye is closed, and then they become barriers when the eye is open. And I believe so. So explain the scoring system for me here, because that also ties directly into the scoring system of the game.
Basically, there are things you can do within the level which increase the number of points you get per tile is removed. So the faster you can push that score per tile up, the more points you're going to score on that level. And when you reach the maximum, which is 300 points per tile, if you get there, it gives you a few seconds of invincibility as well, which you can use to your advantage. The way to play a level effectively is to first of all to learn how most quickly to raise the tile score, not to get killed, because if you get killed, then that reduces your per tile scoring. So you want to raise it up as high as you can, as quick as you can, or raise it up close to the threshold and then go over the threshold, which gives you 5 seconds of invincibility. If it's a tricky level where you'd like to apply those 5 seconds of invincibility in a particular way, you can kind of save it up to do that. But basically, the basic structure is get the scoring rate up as high as you can, keep it there as long as you can.
Yeah, which has largely been a part of all of your games, right? At least in recent memory, right? All about that high scoring and mastering
Yeah,
those techniques to get the highest
you
score
can
possible.
generally just kind of bull your way through, and that's fine. Then you'll get through a few levels. But if you really want to rinse the points, then you need to learn a bit of finesse.
Right. And then right now we're looking at is what would you call them? Because I know you have like a fun name for everything. I just call these arena levels.
Yeah, that was exactly the designation I made for them,
Yeah.
arena levels. Yeah,
Yeah.
where basically you're not just walking around painting the tiles on those levels. You get enemies which swarm towards you, and you can shoot them. And every time you shoot them, they will transform a circular area of tiles underneath where they were destroyed, and you have to paint a certain percentage of the level to get through. That percentage goes up as you go through the game, and the enemies get
Yeah.
faster, obviously. But it's just a slightly more combative, shooty level that occurs every 4 levels. Although it's just nice to kind of change the action up a little bit that way.
Yeah. I love them. I love those levels and fun little. I always like the little dev notes, like things that inside baseball, like what happened, how they evolved a little bit. And that was one which is funny because it directly involves me. When I forgot what it was, there was like something with the like in those levels, you have the ability to charge and shoot. And then at one point, I think you removed it or you changed something, and then it came back. I'm like, oh, that came back. And your response was, yeah, I put it back because you hated it.
I think so. I'm always very experimental when I'm designing the game, and sometimes I'll put something in, sometimes I'll take something out and try something else
You
different.
experimental? No way. I don't believe.
And the thing is, you always get to see the stuff I'm working on quite a lot of the time before
Right.
I'm really ready to show it. And then you start going on about, oh, well, it doesn't do this or it does this wrong or whatever, and it gets on my tits. Um, but in that case, it was actually better to keep in the ring explosions. They were actually better
Well,
than the other
definitely, we
thing
can
I was
say this
trying, which
game had
wasn't quite as
had
good.
a lot of feedback. We can say
Yeah.
this game had a lot of feedback. So during development, it's being fine tuned to really a really good level of tuning.
Yeah. Well, so there you go. There, listeners, if you play the game, anything you don't like, you can blame on me. Anything you do like, you can blame on them. It didn't all come from me specifically. It's all coming. It's all a team effort here. But let's go with that as a rule of thumb. How's that? Is that good?
I think it all came out fine in the end anyway. I like
I
it
think it's
all.
great. Yeah, yeah.
There's nothing in there I'm really displeased with, I've got to say.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's very cool. And one of the items of feedback that came through from the team was that this is the best Llamasoft game yet, or this is the best looking one, or this is the best playing one, this is the best feeling one. Like a
Yeah,
lot of that came through in the feedback. Even with the notes, it was just like, yeah, this is still awesome. And
well,
I
good. We're just happy they like it. Hopefully everybody else will like it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you go in kind of expecting. I think we say puzzle platformer, but Minter itself is a genre. Like Llamasoft is a genre at this point with the amount of games that you guys have put out, and especially the ones of the last few decades. It's like there is an expectation. Like if you're watching your screen right now, it's just like what you're looking at makes sense. It
Yeah, of
makes
course. So.
sense. It might not immediately seem that way, but I assure you it makes sense. It
It's
looks like
actually
you're going
easy.
through the
This is an
tunnel
easy bit.
in Willy Wonka, but it's just a crazy fast tunnel of lights and chaos
I would like
in a
to
good
add,
way.
It
if
feels
I
nice to
may,
rush through those tunnels.
I would like to add, if I may, a small technical detail just to explain also that every time Jeffrey does a new game, there is always some new technical things that get added. So in this case, let's say the engine we're using now is much more complicated than the one that you used for making AKR, because you have all the full VLM effects on the background and stuff. So every time we do a new game, we always try to add something more. So we'll try to expand on some concept of things.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. Um, and also to say that starting with, I mean, AKR was also that had PSVR support. This too will have PSVR 2 support, which is very exciting. AKR was, I think that came later when we launched the PS5 version afterwards. Like there was a bit of a delay there, um, but the important part is that this will support that. I mean, the plan is at least day one, right? Anything's possible, but that's the goal. Um, and AKR, I think the best way to play that was in VR. And
Well, you
similarly, I'd
haven't
say
seen this in VR yet, but I've done.
I know, but I'm excited. I'm excited to see it in
It's
VR, knowing
absolutely awesome. It's absolutely awesome. It's. I don't say it's a different game because it's always the same game, but it's like wow, wow. This is it. This is a game. Like,
yeah. Well, AKR, it's interesting to talk about AKR for a second because VR was actually transformative for that game, and not just VR, but playing it on PS5 specifically with the trackpad was it was like the best way to play it because you had more control than you would with an analog stick, um, by dragging your finger across that. And you could actually have much more. I mean, unless you're playing on ultra wide, I know you got that fancy ultra wide that you guys love so much. But if you're not playing on that, to have your full field of view, basically to see everything coming at you, was a huge advantage in the game and made the gameplay like way more
Oh yeah,
intuitive and accessible.
that was definitely a major plus in VR. You know, those little orange bastards which come in from the side, you can look over and see them way before they arrive on the screen. Whereas, if you're playing on a small screen, they're much more of a surprise.
Yeah. By the way, that is actually what the name of those enemies are, which leads me to another question, which is there is constantly text floating across the screen, yelling at you to shoot shapes or animal farm noises or whatever it is that's being said. Even the names of the levels. Welcome to the world of Moo. That's what just popped up on screen here. How? I'm just gonna ask it like this: how do you come up with this shit?
Well, I mean, the world of Moo
I
really
got
and obviously I'm known for my love of farm animals, so there's that aspect to it. But it's also an indirect reference to the KLF. They often reference Moo Moo Land in their songs.
Oh,
They call it the land of Moo. So it's a KLF reference as well as being a reference to my love of
Also,
beasts.
I wish to add just for the fun that all these sort of references they extend even to the code. If you will see the source code of Jeff, it's completely full of moo, ba, grunt, stuff. Mine contains quite a few bananas, but
yours has bananas.
there is
Yeah,
a lot of bananas in my code.
he's got a thing about bananas in the same way I have a thing about horned beasties. He has a thing about bananas. So
What's your
his
thing with
examples are
bananas?
always
What's
banana this and banana that, whereas
Well,
mine are
you
always
can bet
moo
for
one and moo
sure, at
two.
least in some, well, for sure, in many places, there is some if def banana or something like that, or banana equals to, or this is bananas.
But no, I mean a lot
That's
of that
funny.
stuff is
I had no idea.
a lot of that stuff is just the general rubbish that's floating around in my head at the time, really. And it's been
Yeah.
influenced by all sorts of things. I mean, comedies I like.
Well,
Grew up listening to
nor-
watching
normally,
Monty
other
Python and
references
that
to
kind of
Pink
stuff. So I
Floyd
like the kind of
or
furthest humour.
KLF or Red Dwarf. Red Dwarf.
No, Red Dwarf
Hmm.
is another one that gets in. There's plenty of Welsh in here because I'm learning Welsh, so I've got a lot of Welsh words in there.
I was still convinced that there was a reference to Gorf.
Yeah, but
What's
it's
that?
Gorfen, which is Welsh for to finish.
Oh my god. What was that was probably my favorite I'm a moron moments in recent memory, and a lot happened of me being dumb. But when I went to visit you guys on the farm, it's good to have this on the record officially, just to embarrass myself. Is I meet you guys in Wales. I get to the town and I'm looking around and I'm seeing this crazy language. I'm like, what is this insane language? And you're like, that's Welsh. So,
Cymraeg.
oh, okay, that makes sense. I'm in Wales. Of course, they're going to speak Welsh. I just the oh man, I was having a good run there for a second. The mashup, the complete disregard for vowels and consonants to make coherent words
I think
is
it's the
how
We've
I
same
actually had
way.
describe.
plenty of vowels because W
Right,
is
too
is
many,
a vowel. W is a
too
No,
vowel in
many.
no.
Welsh.
I,
Y
I
is a
would
vowel
say
in Welsh.
I would say it looks to me more like Finnish, Swedish. We have an excess of vowels, and the Welsh has an excess of consonants.
No, it's just
Yeah,
that
it
some
does
of our
say.
consonants are actually
Yeah,
vowels. They
I
look
know,
like
I know.
consonants to you, are actually vowels. The words can look more complicated than they are as well because we have doubled letters. Like a double L
Right, that was it.
it's a
Hmm.
single letter. It looks like two L's, but it's not pronounced like two L's. The same with like two
Yeah.
D's is a different letter. But once you get used to the thing about Welsh, what's nice about Welsh is that it doesn't have all these stupid silent letters or things that are pronounced weirdly like English does. If you can see something written down in Welsh, then by far most of the time you can just read that and pronounce it. You'll know how it's pronounced, even if you've never heard it, because it actually is pronounced how it is written.
Yeah, I still am not
How
sure.
dare how dare you? If mine, I take offense to that, or my name's not Colonel.
I'm still not sure. How is that Abergynolwyn?
Abergynolwyn.
Abergynolwyn.
Yeah,
What is that? What is that? How do you spell that?
It's a
it's a
town.
it's
Oh,
a
it's a
little
town.
village that's kind of mid to North Wales, slightly inland from the coast. There's a little steam railway we like to go and visit every now and again that's based up there. Well, I used to go on holiday when I was a kid. And
Oh.
so we go up there every now and again and ride on the little steam train. The steam train ends in this village called Abergynolwyn, and I've been trying to teach him how to say Abergynolwyn for years, and he still hasn't got it quite right yet. And that's not even a difficult Welsh word. That's easy. Abergynolwyn. I mean, come on.
Abigail.
Yeah,
There you
I
go.
got it straight
All right,
away.
give
I'm Welsh, Golau Gotch, Harof Swashima.
but what about but then does any Italian go the other way then? Is how are the
No,
Italian
no,
lessons going?
don't ask him about Italian. No, please, 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 don't
I
ask.
think I just did. I think I just did.
I still want to
Mio
insist.
porco.
I want to say it in this poster for people to know that I was contrary, and I'm still contrary to the use of certain Italian words that you insisted in having in the game. And if a
Yeah,
game
but
will
they're
get
not in there
banned
anymore.
because
I took them out.
They're
I
not in
took
there.
them
We took
out.
yeah, they're gone.
It's
They're
all
gone because you
sanitized.
were so afraid. You were afraid of being exiled. You were worried that you wouldn't be
I don't
allowed
want to have
back
the
in
Pope
in Italy.
excommunicating me for what I said and what you use without my permission.
Yeah, fair enough. That is a very funny story to say though. We did have. I mean, you still there are still some samples of yours in the game, right? Like
No,
are they all gone or are there some?
I've replaced his voice with voice synth in
Okay.
all areas.
Okay. So for the longest time, and we're talking like until maybe 4 months ago, right? Something like that.
Something like that.
A a large part. Well, actually, before we get to that, explain how the audio works in the game because there's not a
Oh
traditional
yeah, that's
soundtrack,
interesting
but
with the
there's very
concept.
cool. But there's very cool audio.
Yeah,
So
it's a kind of I hesitate to call it music because I probably have proper musicians beating down my door wanting to kick my head in because it's procedural sort of music style stuff. There's like a percussion side of it, a percussion track which is always on, but then there's a couple of synth tracks which overlay that, which gradually build up as you play through the level. The volume on those two rises up until at the end, when you're near the end of the level, everything is fully loud. So you can kind of hear your progress through the level, and it's also on the tunnel sections like you're playing now. As you get the score to go up, the music starts to come in more loudly. But if you miss one of the tetras and it goes behind you, the scoring resets and it goes all quiet again. So it becomes quite obvious when you've made a mistake and you're not running an optimal scoring opportunity. But yes,
right.
it's only simple stuff. I'm no musician, but I've just kind of chucked together some procedural stuff. But it kind of works, I think.
I think it works great, and it's kind of an evolution of what you had in AKR, right? Where similarly, it would kind of build up this
Yeah,
even
I mean,
rhythm, and that would all. Yeah, go ahead.
it's the thing which I've been interested in for many years. Actually, is doing procedural music generation. The trouble is, I don't really have a huge amount of time to spend on it because I'm making the rest of the game as well. So it tends to be something which I tend to get to do fairly quickly. Yeah, if I had my druthers, perhaps I'd like to spend a bit more time developing it more. But I think if I could extend it a bit more with each game, then I can make a bit of progress that way. But yeah, it's something I find interesting.
But why would you stop from calling yourself a musician then if you are therefore creating? I mean, there is music being created
Yeah,
as a
but
result of this, right?
it's procedural music. It's not proper.
Yeah, but what's isn't jazz in a way procedural music? They're just kind of figuring it out as
I
they're up there.
suppose, yeah. I mean, you could call it kind of proc jazz or something like that,
Yeah,
maybe.
why not? New
Uh,
genres are created all the time, and I think just like people didn't say because they were playing on a synth drum, it was like, oh no, you're not a real musician because you're not playing on a proper instrument. But it's all about the sounds. I look, man,
yeah,
I've
I suppose
I've
it's
been
just
to weird
I'm not
independent
creating music in
concerts.
real time. I couldn't stand on a stage and do this. I'd just be like pressing run and telling it to do its own thing. That's the kind of difference, really.
You, I've seen some shows. You'd be surprised.
Well, you can do a VLM show.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I could do a VLM show. I mean, I'm more of a graphics artist, I suppose, really in that respect than I am a musician. Because
Yeah.
the VLM shows, I can do those live.
I once went to a show in New York. It was this thing called, I think they called it Devil's Music. Okay. And I'm in this thing, and my buddy told me, he's like, yeah, let's go, let's check it out. So we go to this thing, and I I'm not kidding. It sounded like some guy just tuning. I think what he was trying to do was find live radio broadcasts and then create a beat around it.
Oh yeah.
But he was using like an AM FM radio to find those signals. So what ultimately happened was it was just a bunch of static noise, and every so often he'd just start playing a beat. And I was like, this is real bad. This is really
I mean,
not good.
I do admire that spirit of adventure. You know, trying to
Sure.
create something avant-garde that way is kind of interesting. There was that thing we went to. Where was it? Oh, no, it was when I was in Spain earlier on last year, and they were doing live coding of music and visuals at the same time. They had one guy developing some visuals in real time, actually writing the code while sat on the stage, another guy next to him doing the music. And some of that was really good, and some of it sounded like a box full of saucepans falling downstairs. But I had to admire the fact they would sit up there because I can't code if anybody's looking at me. Coding for me, it's like going to the toilet. It's something I've got to do privately. I can't do it when somebody's watching me. I wouldn't be able to do it on stage. So even though it may have sounded like a box of saucepans falling downstairs, I've got to admire their spirit for sitting on stage and doing it in front of everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. It's like, yeah, any sort of. I mean, most work you don't really want people to. At
Yeah,
least I don't. I don't want people to watch me. It's like, no, no, come on. It's bad enough where you hear those stories, or there's like a whole thing dedicated around like overbearing art directors or something like that.
yeah,
Imagine,
yeah. Oh, I have
imagine doing
suffered
that
from
with an
that. I
audience.
mean, even when I was working at Atari back in the 90s, when I was working on Defender 2000, it didn't turn into the game I wanted it to be because as an employee rather than a freelancer, I was lent on a lot more. And they wanted me to put in all these complicated backgrounds and make the sprites really big and this kind of stuff, which didn't suit the game design I wanted to do at all. But I was kind of made to do it. And I think I always work best when you just like, let me bugger off and do my own stuff, and I'll come back and show you what I'm doing, and that's fine. Then just leave me alone, which is why I like working with you guys now, because that's exactly what you let me do.
Yeah, even if we do give you feedback, where it's just like, hey, work in
Yeah,
progress.
but
But I like I always respect. At least I try
yeah, but
to
you know I'm always
respect.
going
Like,
to
yeah,
moan. You know I'm going to moan. I'm always going to say, look, this is half baked.
yeah.
Don't
Oh, of
judge it
course.
just
Yeah, yeah.
yet.
Your I always like your notes because they start with everything can change.
Yeah, of
That's how
course.
they start.
I often have that as the first thing that you see on the screen when you boot up the demos because
Yeah,
it's true.
yeah, which is good. You're one of the few people that get away with that. I'm just saying.
Well, the thing
Um,
is, I'll always get
yeah.
there in the end. That's the thing. You can rely on me to get there in the end. It may go some
Oh
weird
yeah, no doubt.
places on the way, but we'll get there in the end. I always do.
Yeah.
And I think that's the
Um,
thing. That's the thing you learn. The longer you spend making games, the more confident you get. Actually, even if it can feel like a struggle at times, you really feel like it's quite difficult to get through, or it's not going the way you want it to go. You just got to chill out and just trust yourself and say, look, it's going to come out in the end. You'll find the right way, and you always do.
yeah. So there was to go back to the audio thing. Ivan thought he dodged a bullet, but he's wrong. I haven't forgotten. I take enough tangents to be able to get back to the main thread of the discussion. Oftentimes, even when I'm multitasking, playing games at the same time, and getting a visual overload.
Yeah, you're doing all right. I
So
would say not bad.
yeah, I started off really rough, but yeah. So what are you gonna do? So early on, and it was this way, like I said, until about 4 months ago. Ivan was caught on, let's say, a hot mic, for lack of a better term, but Jeff basically recorded him saying some things while he was playing some games that he may or may not have been having some trouble with. I think it might have actually been Mr. Run and Jump, right? Like I think that was the game he was playing, and
Oh,
Jeff got him saying some
look,
stuff, things
let's
that you
not
say
talk
when you
about
die a
that
bunch in
game.
a game. What?
Let's not talk about that game. It still makes me
By
so.
the way, we just sent you a care package because we sent
I
you that
know.
coffee, and I did specifically get that game in there. I was the one that was like, wait, we got to put this in there. This he's gonna love
That's
it.
actually you actually play this level the opposite way round to me. I always go right and then round the back and back on the
Oh
left.
yeah,
You go left and then back around on the right.
You know what I think that result is? I think most people are righties, right? So when I play a game, I think I have the expectation that the place I want to go is to the right. So in most games, I actually do go left if given the choice of going right or left. So Ivan Go was on the hot mic saying some things that somebody might say out of frustration, right? We have all been there, and he had the chance to be immortalized in this game by yelling expletives in Italian,
Yeah,
and
but
he
that
says,
wasn't just normal swear words. It was a little bit too intense, and I didn't want to pass out a history like the guy that was getting an excommunication from the Pope or from Atari because of what he said or stuff like that.
I can't imagine that exactly. He said it before I could, but that's right. I haven't had a fear of excommunication for having his Italian swear words in this game. So as a result, they are not there. So here's what I request to you, the listener: if anybody knows the Pope
To,
and
to be honest, actually, but for a reason completely different that I don't know if I should explain. Once I actually was interested to see if there was a way to contact the Pope and how to you could write to the Pope, and there is a
yeah, all
formal
right, go
way,
down
but
this.
I don't
Yeah,
know if
We've
it
been to
gets
his house.
directly.
We've been to his
What?
house before now.
No, it was
what?
about the
Wait, you
story with Valentines, Jeff.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, we've been
Given
to.
that not many Italians ever been there, I was about to ask if you wanted maybe us to bring us something there.
wait? So why did you try to was did you try to access the Pope for this one, or was
No,
that
it
a
was
different reason?
interesting to see if there was actually a way to write anything to the Pope. So there is a way in theory. There is a formal address, but I never tried.
What would you say to him? Hey,
But it's
just
because
so
of
you
the
know, I'm about to.
Parintins story. Because years ago we went to Parintins, which is a pretty remote location, which is extremely Catholic, and I don't think if he ever knows if that exists or what they do in there. But we were to this famous Boy Boomba festival, which is a very strange thing, which is a complete mixture of Amazonian folklore and traditions with extreme Catholic religion. It's like a festival where there are just two oxen competing, but in a friendly way for who is the best ox. That's why we went there. And I was thinking,
What?
considering
I got
that
a second.
probably
Stop.
okay,
It's
What
on.
is that?
Jeff,
How?
explain.
It's sometimes called the Amazonian Ox Dance Festival, and it's something I first heard about in 2006 when he was back in Italy and I was doing an ox related search at night, and I came across this mention of this festival which takes place up the Amazon, where these two opposing ox or teams of oxen, called themselves oxen, have this complicated dance festival that's based in all these allegorical and religious stories, and it's fantastic. It's amazing. It's second in scale only to the famous festival in Rio, which everybody has heard of. And I for years and years, I wanted to go there. We finally went in 2019, and
Mm.
it's stunning. It takes place in an arena that's shaped like an ox's head, and you go to this place and you support one of either two oxen. There's Boy Capriccioso, which is the ox we support, which is a black ox with a blue star on his forehead. And then there's Boy Garantido, is the opposing team's ox, and he's a white ox with a red heart on his head. And the teams consist of up to 1,000 dancers. The percussion section alone is 200 people, and they do three performances on three consecutive nights in the last weekend in June. Each performance lasts about 2.5 hours per team. So you go there and you watch. You're like in there for like 5 or 6 hours, and it's stunning. It's absolutely the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I mean, I've been to Pink Floyd concerts, and this knocks Pink Floyd concerts into a cocked hat. The artistry that is involved in these performances is outstanding, incredible, and the main character of each team is an ox. So what's not for me to love there? I had to be
Yeah,
there.
of course. Yeah, yeah, that's cool. So carry on the Pope.
No, basically, I was just thinking, considering that even last time, probably we were, I'd say, the only Europeans who had ever been there, or among the very few. Actually, I managed to find an Italian guy in there, has to be said. I managed to find an Italian
You
guy.
always one somewhere.
I was thinking, because this all this app, even if it's like that, is actually tied totally to Catholic religion, because there is this mixture between Amazon folklore and Catholic religion. So it's like. There is the ox, but I don't know, is an image of Saint John or Saint Paul or something like that. So there is this kind of double vision. I don't know how to
Isn't it
explain.
Luke, the ox? I think the ox is Luke, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. So basically, because they are extremely Catholic there, I was thinking it would have been nice. I don't know. I don't say bring there a message from the Pope or something symbolic that
Well,
could
we've
be
got those
interesting for.
coins we got in Rome when we went to St Peter's in Rome, didn't we? We
Yeah,
could
but it
take
would be
those back
nice
to the
to have
family box.
something, let's say, a bit official to bring there, considering that it's
Oh,
very, very rare that
they were
anyone
bought in
goes
Rome
there.
and they got a picture of the Pope on. We could donate them to the cathedral there, couldn't we?
Yeah, we could do that.
Send the letter. Send the letter. Get in good with the Pope. Then we could ask him if it's okay to use the voice
Swearing.
sample. Get him writing that.
No, I'm not going.
Get him
I'm
writing
not going
that
to
it's
ask
okay,
Pope Francis
and then
if
we
it's
patch
okay to use blasphemy in a video game. I'm not going to do
and
that.
then we patch it in. No, you get in
Yeah.
good though. I'm talking years down the line when you're buds. We'll send him a couple codes, whatever he wants. We'll send him 100 codes to the Pope.
Yeah.
Well, 100 Steam keys. You think? What do you think? You think the Pope's on Steam?
Yeah, I think
Think he's
that'd
more
be
of a Switch
cool.
guy? What do you think?
Yeah, I think probably the Switch, isn't it? Really, I think with the Pope.
Yeah, he's always on the move. I'd
I
expect him
can't
to
I
be pretty
can't see him
close.
using Steam really.
What about a deck? He might be a Steam Deck guy.
Maybe I
But yeah,
suppose.
yeah, probably. You're probably right. He's probably a Switch. I think he's a Switch
Oh,
guy.
he's a Switch guy.
How how long was the idea of making an iRobot game on your mind?
Well, it's something I've been thinking about off and on for quite a while now. I mean, I quite often look at those old games and think if I was going to update them, what would I do? And iRobot has always been particularly interesting to me because it was so pioneering in its early use of 3D graphics. And also, it was never a very widely distributed game. And I quite like taking some of these more obscure games and lifting them a bit out of obscurity, I would hope. It's a game I always thought deserved more exposure. So, yeah, I mean, it's always been on the back of my mind as something which I might possibly mess around with at some point in the future for several years, I would say.
Yeah. When you approach a game like this that has that pioneering nature to it, do you see that as a challenge of creating a nod and respecting the old game versus putting your own stamp on it? Like how do you approach that? Um, I don't necessarily think not maybe responsibility is the right word, but I suppose that challenge because you're going to have people. I don't think many people know what iRobot is, but those that do know, they're coming it from a similar perspective that you did, which is knowing it as this pioneering title.
Well, I mean, I could never really regain the feeling which the original had of like somebody wandering into an arcade and seeing something they'd literally never seen before, a technique that's literally never been seen before. Because these days you can do anything. I mean, PCs are so powerful, you can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
Um, but one of the things which I did like from back then was the fact you had this mode where you could just go in and play with the graphics. And I've kind of got that in this game as well. There's a mode called the Ungame, which just lets you play with the light synth backgrounds. You can use the analog joysticks to explore a little bit of the light synth parameter space. So people interested in procedural graphics generation may get a bit of fun to play with that. Yeah, it's just a little toy in the spirit of the original. In terms of the gameplay, I mean, I have rather trampled over it a bit. Quite a lot of me has come out and gone into there, but I hope that I've respected the original enough that it's still recognisably iRobot in its spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And it remains to be seen what the purists will make of it. Some may like it, some may curse me for it. We'll see. But I've tried to be respectful, but I've also tried to be creative.
Yeah, you don't just want to do. Of course, there's no real fun in making the same thing again, right? That exists. You
Yeah,
know,
but then I
those
also don't
people.
want to turn it into something completely different. Like some of the
Right.
updated versions of
Exactly.
arcade games were turned into something that's entirely different from what they were before. I want to keep the spirit of the arcade gameness of it, but still make it modern in its own way.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's very cool, and I think you did a good job. I mean, what's you put your own mark on it. Literally, the first thing you'll notice when playing the game is that the main character as an ox head. That's
Everything is better with horns.
I, yeah, not toilet seats.
Well, okay, there are some exceptions to that.
That's
Man,
an
that came to
interesting
mind
concept.
unusually quick. I don't like how fast that came to mind as an example, but all right. But yes, in games for sure. I guess I don't have a good enough retort for that, so I will accept it, and the audience will be forced to as well. Cool. Anything? I don't want to keep playing because I'm basically just going to get to the whole game at this point. If I keep it up, I'm having a pretty solid run here. But is there anything else about the game that you want people to know before I cut the stream here and we get to some of my real shenanigans?
Well, I just want people to enjoy it and don't take it too seriously. I've tried to make it as non-frustrating as possible. I don't ever want to create one of those games where you end up feeling like you're going to throw your controller across the room because you're so frustrated playing it. To me, it should always be fun, and hopefully people have fun with it. There's quite a lot of little secret things in there. But there are ways to complete levels much more efficiently than the perhaps most obvious way, and it's worth spending a bit of time looking for those. Um, Keep an eye on level times. Really. Basically, you will always do better by being quick in this game. There is absolutely no benefit to being slow. The faster you are, the more you're going to score. Basically,
Oh
I
man,
would like to
yeah.
add to be, please have mercy about the ports. Have mercy about the ports.
I think you're doing a great job. I can tell you. Look, we let's get more inside baseball, right? We're about to submit our the Switch build for certification, and the Switch build, a Switch on OLED, like Llamasoft games are nothing if like a celebration of color, and that doesn't come through better than on an OLED screen. And I assure you, on the Switch OLED, it is a sight to behold. It is awesome. So, you get yourself a big OLED monitor if you can, but if you can't, that is an amazing way to play the game. And it runs silky smooth, 60 FPS, whether
yeah,
you're on
I'm
handheld
very pleased with the Switch build. Actually, it's come out very
or
nicely.
not. Yeah, it's great.
About
And
the FPS, Jack,
Ives done a
we
killer
have to
job.
explain that it's been tested up to 165 FPS, and it goes.
Yeah, it should be fine.
Yeah, it's great. It's good stuff. Um, cool. Well, let me get through this level because this is absolutely chaotic, and I love these levels. So I just want to get through that. Also, I want to say shout out because I brought up the language, and you know I want to give a shout out to GameScribes, which is the company that we use a lot for our localization. And if you want to know what the difference is between translation and localization, look no further than this game because, like I mentioned before, there's a lot of stuff that may appear to be gibberish. And translation would just say, well, that word means this, so therefore that's going to be that. Localization is a spreadsheet of about 100 questions that say, what is the context of this? What does this mean? That is exactly what we went through when doing the localization for this game. so, so thank you to GameScribes for what you do. Um, cool. All right, I'm gonna stop because otherwise I'm gonna keep playing. So let me stop the recording here. Okay, cool. So now, fellas, between the last time you joined the podcast and this time, I've started forcing, let's say, to use kind language, my the guest into playing some games, trivia games, if you will. and they're always catered in some way thematically or maybe explicitly to the guests at hand. So I don't have a name for this game that we're going to play, but I assure you it's pretty straightforward and very personalized. So I really the best way I could say it is it's basically called let's just call it the Moby Games score game thing. I'm really good at naming stuff. What's going to happen is I've pulled a list of the top rated Llamasoft games on Moby Games according to in order of their Moby score. Now I know what you're thinking. Hey, what's a Moby score? Well, I always like to explain what a Moby score is. The Moby score is the Bayesian average of critic and player ratings. You can use the Moby score to get an idea of how others feel about the game. So, do you guys know what a Bayesian average is?
Uh, we heard
Charles does.
about.
He's the mathematician.
I
Ivan, do
remember
you?
reading about the detail, but I can't remember. But yeah, I mean,
Don't
it
worry,
should be a good average.
I have an explanation for you guys on the Bayesian score as well. The Bayesian interface is a method of statistical inference in which Bayes' theorem is used to calculate a probability of hypothesis given prior evidence and update it as more information becomes available. So we're all on the same page. We all know how this works. We all know what the score is, and there will be no confusion, I'm sure, of where these scores come from or why they are what they are. So with that in mind, we're going to go 3 rounds because I want to be respectful of your time. And we started quite late in the recording, and we are recording this on a Sunday because your internet is about to be dug up. So I have pulled a bunch of where's the rest of these things? Llamasoft. Okay, so I have the top. I pulled 18 games here for some reason. I just copy and paste as much as I can, but you will only get credit for. Actually, you know what? Screw it. Let's get weird. I will give you the amount of points based on where it is in the rank. Okay, so you'll each name a game. I'll take turns saying a name, and I will give you basically if you choose the 18th in the list, I'll give you 1 point. If you choose the first in the list, I will give you 18 points. Okay. Now, do you guys want to? Usually, when I do this, I go alphabetical by first name. So let's do that. But it's also rare that I only have 2 people on. But you know what? Let's do it that way. Ivan, you will get to go first. Name 1 game that is credited to Llamasoft that you think would be the top rated by Moby score, which we all know what it means.
Amatron?
Llamatron. Do you have a full title?
What?
A full title on Llamatron.
The full title of Amatron?
Yeah,
Llamaton 2012?
that's correct. Okay, so that is number 9 on the list. So I realize that I've done a terrible job of figuring out how to score this because I've done this all in real time. So 1, 2, okay, that will give you 10 points. A strong start, if I say, because oftentimes I'll do this and people will get 0 points. So that's good. You are well versed, and that was a deep. Why did you choose that as your first guess?
Because I was thinking about Tempest, but I know that a lot of people seems to be extremely fond of Lamatron, so I would say it's difficult between the two which one people prefer.
All right, fair enough. All right, Jeff, what's your first guess?
Well, so just, I mean, obviously, I think the one that's going to be number 1 is going to be Tempest 2000.
Is that your guess?
Yeah.
All right, Tempest 2000 is number 2
Oh,
in the
okay.
list.
Fair enough.
So that's good for 17 points. Now, I should tell you what the ratings of these are. And they're all good because I think everything above a 7 is like gives you a green. So Llamatron 2012 has a 7.5 Moby score, and Tempest 2000 has a 7.7 on the Moby score, which I think is criminally lower than it should. I mean, all of these should be A pluses in my opinion, but what are you going to do? You can't, there's a lot of people out there, and the Bayesian average does what it does. Ivan, round 2.
Sorry, must have
So
been a little glitch in the transmission. I haven't heard the question.
oh, but what's your second choice?
The second
Your
choice,
your your next choice, because now you got 10 points, Jeff has 17. We're gonna go 3 rounds of this.
Grid Runner.
Grid Runner is number 12 on the list with a 7.4, and that is good for 7 points. So now you guys are tied, but Jeff has a game in hand. And speaking of which, Jeff, what's your next guess?
Okay, next one. Let's go with Revenge of the Mutant Camels then.
Revenge of the Mutant Camels is number 14 on the list. So that's good for 5 points. That has a 7.3. So okay, interesting. This is good. Ivan,
So
last guess. Right now you are down by 5 points. So you could go the number one would get you a big boost. And there's a lot of games for the taking here.
okay, then I would say maybe too easy, or maybe I'm completely wrong. But at this point, I have to say Attack of the Mutant Camels.
Jeff just said that.
I said Revenge
No,
of the Mutant
it
Camels.
says Revenge.
Sorry. You're right. Okay, fair enough. That changed things. I got it. Then I'm dumb. Here we go. There it is. Number 6 on the list. Good for 13 points. This is good. This is good stuff. So you got 30. Jeff, you have 22, which means you need to guess at least the 10th or higher to get the win here. Of course, if it's a tie, then we'll do another round for a tiebreaker.
Right. Okay. Well, let's go with Polybius then.
There it is, number 1 on the list. 7.8. Oh, by the way, Attack of the Mutant Camels had a 7.5. Jeff with a decisive victory. Just going down the list here, Grid Runner Revolution.
Oh yeah,
was number 3. TXK,
yeah.
number 4. One of my favorites on Vita, by the way. Iridus Alpha?
Iridus Alpha, yeah.
That would be
Is
number
it in
5.
any place 5 a day?
What's that?
5 a day.
Hardly anybody's heard of that because that was on the on the iPhone, wasn't it? That was iOS. That was mobile gaming.
Let me see here where that is in the list because I
Not
actually closed the
it's not
window
going to
when
be
we
top
were
18,
having.
I don't think.
Let's see here. Well, it's Moby
a
Game,
very
so
nice game.
It should have everything.
It's based around Time Pilot. It's kind of like a new age version of Time Pilot. It's very, very nice game, but I mean, it had no penetration at all because it was a mobile game.
So what? How do you? What is it called again? 5 what?
5 a day.
5 a day. Oh, here we go. Yeah, no Moby score on that one. It's on the site though.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lovely game. It's one of my favourites, but it's just nobody had ever heard of those games because the distribution of them was so bad.
Yeah. So then, Attack the Mutant Camels, number 6, Super Grid Runner, number 7, Ancipitol, number 8, Lamatron 2012, as we said, at number 9, Tempest 4000, number 10, Aka Art, number 11. It's all of these are kind of bunched together, only separated by 0.1. Space Giraffe, number 13, Grid Runner, number 12. Yeah, good list. A lot of great games. If you're not familiar with the back catalog of Llamasoft, now's a better time than ever because you got, well, an undesignated amount of time because we're not saying the release date, but you have a certain amount of time to get educated on the back catalog. Good way to do that is check out check Llamasoft, the Jeff Minter story by Digital Eclipse, and you should because it's awesome. And otherwise, check out Aka Art, check out Tempest 4000, fill in all the gaps of what these guys have done because it's awesome. Jeff, Ivan, thank you for taking time out of your Sunday to join me here. This is a lot of fun. I had some good laughs. I had a good time. Hopefully, you had as much fun as I did.
Yeah,
and yeah, where can people find you? I think you're out there tooting on Mastodon somewhere, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm on Mastodon. So I'm known as Stinky Ox. I think on Mastodon. What's my actual? Let me look up what my actual handle is.
No, I think you are Stinky Ox, Llamasoft Ox. At
Llamasoft Ox. My username is a Stinky Ox, so you'll easily find me. We do
All right.
morning sheep time on there. We do morning sheep time on YouTube every day. So check YouTube for morning sheep time, and you'll see our lovely little lambs bouncing about and almost knocking him over this morning.
You still posting stuff on the YouTube channel? Because you put up a bunch of videos for a while.
Yeah, I do. We do a morning sheep time every morning
Right. Is that on YouTube or is that just on Mastodon?
on YouTube.
Oh, on YouTube. There you go. We'll check that out.
Yeah,
I'll put the link in the description as well, so you guys can check that out
and
as
you
well.
can see us giving digestive biscuits to all our sheep every single morning.
Which I've done, and they love it. It's great. Very cool. Ivan, what about you? Is that all the same stuff, or you also out there?
Yeah, I'm on Mastodon as well. I can't remember. I am at Giles Gold, but it's more me complaining about things like bad coffee and stuff like
He's
that.
always
And
moaning. He goes on Mastodon to moan all the time.
if
All
you want
right.
to
Now
see interesting
here's the real question.
moanings of about things, that's me.
Did you try the Roasty Buds coffee?
I haven't yet. I promise that I'm going to do a video about it. We'll do a
I'm
very
going to take a video,
technical.
but we're kind of worried about losing our Atari affiliation if he does the video and he gives his honest feelings, because he might
He,
start swearing and upset the Pope and Atari at the same
no.
time.
Well, here's oh man, because you said you were going to do a live taste test, and I was like, this would be hilarious because you could taste it, and then one of two things would happen. If you liked it, I would have let it go, and if you didn't, I would have just cut. But you would have sipped it, and then we would have just moved to the next. It should have been hilarious. But I decided, but hey, it's all good. And here's the fun thing about Atari: our licensing and games are different, right? So Cassandra, who I'm just going to publicly shame now because I've been trying to get her on since December, November of 2023, trying to do like a QVC style. Hey, here's all the licensing stuff we have going on. And she's been dodging me for over a year now. And so, Cassandra, get on here if anybody wants to throw some comments being like, get Cassandra on, let's see that in the YouTube below, and then I'll just send that to her and then convince her to get on. But she runs all the licensing stuff, and then the game side, which is where I am, that's very different. So say whatever you want about the coffee, because that has nothing to do with that has nothing to do with it's like, it's not like there aren't enough people out there who have tried it and talked about it that it's
Yeah,
like
but
you guys have an opinion.
I
It's
will
like, you
make
didn't
a
like the
really honest
coffee, get out of here.
and a really honest opinion.
That's all I want. I always ask for it. Honest opinions. That's my mantra. I got mocked for it, but no use in lying to people, right? If you speaking of which, give me those honest opinions down below in our reviews as well. You can find me on Blue Skies at Jays of Doom. That's the best place to go. I'm done with X for the immediate future
Yeah, I
and
don't blame
foreseeable
you.
future. So yeah, for many reasons. But for now, Blue Skies, it's quite nice. Their algorithm is good, and there's no ads for the moment before they decide, hey, we need to figure out how to make money. So don't get too comfortable. Anyway, guys, thank you so much again for joining, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot.
Okay, see you.